let me quickly begin with the introduction that Pratik already had. So I graduated long back from IIT Kharagpur in 2005, and for almost like 10 to 12 years worked in various product and tech organizations, managing the R&D efforts. Uh, in some of the companies like Oyo's and Amazon, I was also briefly part of the computer vision, some of the initiatives related to computer vision. So that gave me some exposure on what is about to happen in the near future, right? So that was one of the like pushes that basically gave us to launch a company like this. And uh, right. So Amazon, Oyo, Yatra. So most of these companies I was associated with, and the especially Yatra and Fashion and Use. So these companies I was associated at very early stage, right? So learned a lot of tricks on how to scale those companies from let's say 1,000 odd users to maybe 10,000 odd users in a month, right? So that's the kind of scale that usually worked with in the past. So uh, that was the zone I was pretty much comfortable with early on, right? So 0 to 1 was definitely the zone that I didn't have any exposure on. That was the learning that all happened in the while building the startup, right? It's fine, and that was that the entire journey started in 2018 when I took the plunge of building something on our own, and and yeah, a lot of time was spent in figuring out the market, right? So this is like one of the problems that I think usually happens when you are a first time entrepreneur, right? So you don't know what to build. So you know how to build and what to build, but you don't really know whether the thing that you are building is actually needed by a lot of customers that will give you scale, right? So this was one of the foundational mistakes that early on happened with us, which led us to a very like painful pivot. We will talk about it in some time during this pitch. But yeah, all those learnings help us build spine. Of course, so very early in our journey still, but something that the product market fit, at least in some way or the other, has been established, right? And now we are looking at scaling some of the product that we have already built across the globe. So this is where we are. And about my background, let me just move on to the clear themes that we will talk about in this particular slide. So mostly we will touch upon like how we started, like the vision and the goals that we created around the vision to make it an iterative journey as we move forward in the future, right? And the goals were all linked with the 0 to 1 hitting PMF kind of a milestone, right? And we'll talk about the various challenges that we encountered while hitting this PMF and what actually the PMF was for us. So this is also one of the points that we'll possibly touch upon. Then after hitting the PMF, how did we go about raising the first investment, right? And the subsequent investment. So we overall raised about 2 investments. So how did we go about doing these two, and what all challenges we faced there? And of course, so one of the holy grails of building a startup is managing costs, right? So what all things work for us, what all things we kept on seeing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to ensure that business is in the healthy state and we do not go out of the business like its own. So yeah, so let me straight away begin uh, with the core theme. So of course, so none of the things that I speak about here would be something that you won't know, right? So majority of slides, I'll just keep it as it is. We'll talk about my experience, and then we can basically talk about anything that we want to discuss on those slides. So yeah, fundamentally for a startup, what we realized, and all of you might also be fully agree with, is that a solid grand vision is needed, right? So what you want to build over let's say next 10 years. So this is one of the foundational thinking that has to happen before you even start a startup, right? So and that grand vision could be like very vague, could be very vague, right? So for us, it is making internet beautiful with like stunning visuals, It could be pictures, it could be videos, it could be 3D. I mean, so eventually the goal is to make internet beautiful using whatever form of media is present at that particular moment of time, right? So we know that the industry will evolve over time, but you have to make your startup big enough to incorporate most of these like values in the way you will be building it over the time, right? So that is one of the things that we started with. And I mean, the fundamentals behind it is keep the problem wide enough so that whenever you pitch, you are able to show a big story to the people. To the people, I mean, to the investors, to the customers, to the employees, to everyone who you interact with, right? So, and that will become one of the foundational things which will attract a lot of people to work for you, to invest in you, to partner with you, and a lot of similar things start happening when you talk like big, and also support it with some of the things that you achieve over the time, right? So right, so I'll talk about one of the instances here. So when we launched our company initially in 2018, we started with a very myopic vision of building a like content repository for photographers through which they can like gain more business. So initially the vision was not that great. I mean, we were building something that will be useful for the photographers. We built something, and that actually worked out. The product market fit was established as well there. The product was also used by close to like 300 odd photographers, fully like SaaS based product, which was used by like almost like 200 plus photographers in the first year itself. We are doing about like 50 lakh worth of revenue in the first 1.5 years of launch already, SaaS revenue. So what happened there was that because of because the entire vision was not that great and the market potential that we identified was not initially like thought through, we hit a big roadblock in terms of like raising an investment where the VCs were I mean, this is all true when you are looking to raise big money and want to grow like pretty big over the time. If you want to build a solid profitable bootstrap business with like maybe 3 to 5 million or 10 million kind of an ARR over, let's say, next 10 years, this is like completely okay thing to do. But our vision for future was, hey, we want to build one of the defining companies in the industry. So 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 that basically didn't happen because the vision was pretty small for us. It was solving some of the challenges for the photographers generally, and photographers were not willing to pay much for it initially, right? So market study, vision, all of these things basically coupled, and some big problems arise in the line of raising investment for us, right? So that we'll talk about that problem further on as we move next. So let me talk straight away to the 0 to 1 journey hitting PMF, right? So PMF, as per me, is whichever space you are in. If you have hit that first set of customers, which basically tells you what to build next, and the core thing that you have built is repeatable in nature, that you can acquire a lot of people similar to the initial set of customers that you have found, right? And they are asking you for more and more features, and they are paying for you as well, right? So fundamentally, if your product is selling well, I mean, we were out and out a B2B SaaS company. So we always measured in terms of like whether the customers are parting their money with us or not, and whether they are getting retained, like are they growing with us month on month or not, are they so I mean, users based product. So the core metric that we need to analyze was, are they growing month on month with us, and are we able to bring more such customers into our platform or not? So this was the early definition of PMF, right? So first 3 to 4 months, we have to see this pattern happening before we are ready for like the next stage, which is maybe bringing on investment to just repeat this cycle, right? So right, and fundamentally, there are like possibly, because most of us who are building an AI first company would be coming from tech or product background, right? So a lot of time in the early stage, we get too fascinated about building things, right? Solving things I'm building the full-fledged product, right? Initially, and not testing the hypothesis enough with the market, right? So fundamentally, like the way it has worked for us is, uh, before building anything, uh, we basically like just go around, talk with the customers. A lot of time, like we invest on the product as a last resort in anything that we do, right? So I mean, would be counterintuitive, but in a lot of cases, uh, uh, the way the product market fit, right? So most of the companies that we see around, including ours in the first stage, right? So uh, was a failed startup, right? So and we were among 90% of the startups who were not able to make it, right? So what happened was we incorrectly, either we built it for the customers who were not large in quantity, or we built the product that was not needed by the customers alone, right? So 90% of the startups do not make it, 30% of the startups fail by the second year, and and the primary, first and foremost reason behind it, the PM, product market fit, is not established by those startups, right? And the only way to get established is, I mean, customers. You have to like just get into the shoes of customers, build it for the customers, and build like small, and then iterate, like launch fast, iterate, and just hear the signals of the customer, right? So what they are saying to you, uh, are the things that you are even thinking of building, are they are these the must to have things, or just good to have things, right? So maybe customers will be telling you 20 different things, but they'll not be willing to pay for 19 odd things for you. So those 19 things probably could not be a priority for you, right? So constant prioritization based on what customers are telling you could be the could be one of the ways forward to 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 I mean, achieve this product market fit, and then seeing this particular trend happening month on month, at least for the next 3 to 4 months, right? So there's something that we also extensively did in our initial months. So I'll tell you how we evolved our product in the initial days, right? So when we realized that the first idea was not working well for us, the first domain that came to our mind was, because we were working in the content space, right? And content is a huge industry. We were targeting a very focused persona, which was limited in its scope and the market size, right? So the next idea that I mean, of course, so you talk to a lot of investors, so they also sometimes give you a lot of advices that are useful. So some of these investor communications happened where we realized that, hey, we were not chasing the market which was large enough. We are good at like establishing product market fit, but probably not good enough in identifying the right opportunity to build for, right? So the key thing that we encountered was, key, hey, let's build for a very large market, right? And the large market for us was, I mean, photography. Why build for photographers a tool? Why not solve this photography in a much automated fashion, right? I knew about like computer vision, knew about how the photography happens, because we were working for the photographers, right? So if you just automate this entire industry, it basically unlocks a lot of opportunity for you in future, right? And there's like a massive value that you also unlock, because you enable end users like you and me to build very high quality media content for online journey, right? So this was one of the key things that we got to know, that the market basically dictates what you need to build, right? And we basically realized, okay, this is something that we need to build. So product market fit in an AI startup is a hard job, right? Because one, AI is not accurate, right? So whatever you build is bound to fail in the first go. I mean, this will not be accurate. Like customers will always have problem that, okay, out of 100 things that you did, 10 has these defects, right? In our cases, it was like image transformation. So 100 images that we used to process, there were 15 to 20 images which were not processed well, right? So how did how do you overcome this particular problem, right? So what we started as to build this product market fit was, we knew that this is one of the big value movers that will happen in the industry if we automate this entire photography. Because The way the industry used to operate in our cases, I mean, it also vast majority of industries operating the same way is that the big companies like we help e-commerce companies generate product catalogs, right, in a much efficient manner. So what happened was, what used to happen was these big e-commerce companies used to give large contracts to to photography studios, agencies, freelancers all across the globe, right? And these agencies, because they used to deploy photographers on the field, they used to charge almost let's say 300 rupees or $4 to $5 per product shoot, non-model product shoot, right? With the tech that we were building, the like 3 to 4 key value propositions that we identified that will clearly bring a shift to this particular industry. The first big value proposition was कि, hey, can we enable the end user shoot like a photographer, right? Because at a lot of time photographer have this subjectivity of how a particular category has to be shot, right? So once you are able to solve this particular problem, you know that you can have end users shoot the product on their own. That completely eliminates the need of an external agency or a freelancer to do the photo shoot. Second is the input that you have captured, can you transform it and make it an output which is as good as the photographer's output, right? So image transformation, which was a very hard computer vision problem, right? Uh, so this second problem was image captured. First problem was image captured well. Second problem was image processed well into a final output, which is almost as good as photographer's output, right? So so these two these two foundational shifts basically brought a lot of value unlocking, because we were able to reduce, because everything was tech. So we were able to reduce the cost of shooting and producing an image from, let's say, 300 rupees to about like 1 to 2 rupees, because it is all, once you have trained your models and build like specific model that can enable you and me to shoot like a photographer, it is no cost because tech is doing the job, right? So second part was processing. So the foundational problem for us was, are we able to produce the final image or not? And this is the problem, and this is like one of the big value unlocking that most of the AI companies like ours can bring in the industry, right? So because wherever, like whichever industry you choose, if you apply AI, you can bring a foundational shift, right? But that foundational shift will not be like instant. It'll go through its iterative journey. So what we did was, we started offering those bigger companies ki, hey, uh, use our tech. It is not accurate, it is not perfect, right? But we will help you bring down your cost to about maybe 60 to 70% right away, because 20 to 30% images that are not processed well will do manual, just like a photography agency does the job, right? And had we approached this solution as a like a 1 year long project where the accuracy had been like the key and foremost focus for us, we might have been building the tech again and again. That so in this entire journey, what we did was, every month we used to unlock a customer, give them a big value proposition, enable them, and unlock revenue for us. It was almost like 70% automated, and almost 20-30% it was done with like all those editing services, annotation services. But that basically helped us in the next 12 months increase our efficiency from 30%, from 70% efficiency to almost about like 95 to 98% efficiency, right? So this is like one of the first things that we realized, whenever you build any solution, just have your primary customers as your like key personas, and get those customers engaged in a very early stage. And how do you find those customers? Maybe from your network, right? So first, maybe on the paper, build a very strong value proposition that will actually fly well, right? So this is the first hypothesis on which the founders play, right? So coming up with the idea that actually works well. Second probably is having some form of that idea implemented. Don't wait for the perfection. Just get something out which unlocks a percentage of that particular value in the first launch itself, right? And then iterate over the months, over the maybe ours was slightly peculiar industry where we were able to bring down uh, the cost and the value by a huge margin. But I guess in the AI first startups, a lot of industries that you will be targeting will provide you this kind of an opportunity. Um, I guess like so. This is what basically worked for us in the last 1.5 to 2 years of building this computer vision product generally. And yeah, so another key thing that we realized over our journey was that we were doing like too many things initially. We were solving for e-commerce products, we were solving for real estate, we were solving for models, we were solving for uh, automobiles, we were solving for like virtually any kind of product that you can think of. We were just accepting projects here and there. Okay, hey, we'll offer you a good value proposition where 70% of advantage we can provide you, right? But 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 again, like as a startup, you will always be very I mean, in the need of resources. You don't have like world of resources to invest in every single problem, right? So we realized early on, of course spending some time on it, that narrowing the focus actually accelerates your journey pretty aggressively, right? So because now you have one category to solve, you can do virtual many things around it, right? So let's say out of 6 categories that we focused on, that probably we would have solved, we focused on one category, which was automobile. And there was some science which led us to decide that automobile should be the first category that we should be targeting. And we did a very thorough TAM analysis of this particular category, that worldwide, if we only solve, let's say, automobile for the next 2 years, we'll be able to build a big enough business where the VCs will back us, right? So that answer was true, actually, because uh, automobile cataloging alone provided us an opportunity that could make us maybe a billion dollar business if we continue doing it only in the next 3 to 4 years, right? So narrowing focus basically helped us tailor our solution exactly for that particular industry, right? And build for that industry in a very refined manner. And what this allowed us was, helped us also was, that a lot of models that we created for the automobile industry were built in a very refined fashion, and those models are right away usable for the other industry. So we, in the last 6 months, we were able to launch e-commerce, food pretty aggressively. The first industry launch happened in almost like 1.5 years, but the next two industry opened in the next last 6 months only for us. And we are doing like pretty big pilots with some of the uh, well-known names in the industry in these two categories already, right? So this is one of the key learning that we had along with our building phase journey. And second key learning was, because most of the startups, like most of the founders, are like super aggressive, right? So we always want everything to happen next day itself, right? So uh, I was also on the same boat. So used to set some of the goals which were not achievable, like pretty like big, hairy, audacious goals. Many times it works, but those goals should be backed by some very foundational and solid data, right? So I mean, in Amazon's world, so Pratik would realize. So we used to talk about these big, hairy, audacious goals, and we used to work backwards to achieve them, right? But Amazon has a lot of resources to get it done, get things done, right? So as a startup, you don't have a lot. So what you also need to do is, you need to set the goals which are big enough for you to take that next leap, but also to keep your employees super motivated, right? So instead of like having those unrealistic expectations, we had those expectations of, let's say, 15 to 20% month on month goal, the increment of revenue. Let's do that, right? So that also will get you to about like 5 to 10x of year on year growth, which is, if you talk to any VCs, they'll be like, you'll be one of the top tier companies that can do this particular growth, 15 to 20% month on month, across like all SaaS companies that you know in the globe, majority, basically, right? So these two were the, I mean, one of the key learning, that practical learning that helped us uh, maybe course correct some of the things that were not working earlier for us, and build in the path that we are right now at, right? Again, right? So another two things was, a few points was that okay, as a and this is practically value for all of the companies that all of us, because we are an AI first company. So by the nature of the domain that we are in, we are solving really hard problems, right? So very tough to very tough to build, like if you keep on building in these areas for a long time and build for the customers, keep on solving their challenges, it's very hard to build a parallel company. I mean, there will be competitions. There are competitions for us as well, but the kind of accuracy levels that you will get to, everyone will have to take that journey, right, to get there. And as a B2B customers, the cost of switching is so high that that minor, like 10%, 20% of incremental quality will not like get them move out of your system. If you're like you're completely solved that particular problem, and super focused on like servicing that customer, right? So this is like one of the key thing that I also think that most of the AI companies like us has key advantages on, provided that we focus entirely on the customers, and keep on solving for the customers. We don't solve the hard problems just for the sake of it. We solve hard problems because no one else can, and the customer really needs it, right? So, and how do you solve those hard problems? Again, not by like spending maybe 3 to 6 months and 1 year without launching it. So you need to launch pretty fast, right? So keep launching, because the customers will tell you whether you are going right or not. Feedback loop has to be like super, I mean, super quick. Like as a founder, you have to get into the shoes of the customers. You have to talk with the customers and understand what is it that is lacking in your product right now that you need to improve. Is the accuracy rate a key problem? Maybe the accuracy rate is not a problem at all for the customer, right? They are happy with it. They would need some other feature that that is outside the AI, and you can very quickly support it, and that will just make that customer stick to you more. So as an AI company, right? So uh, I think AI is a big enabler, but and AI is at the core of most of the company that we are building. But AI basically at the core brings like a big value proposition, like big value shift in the customer. But you will have to build on top of the AI a lot of like frills to make that customer stick with you. And that would happen only when you keep on talking with the customer, right? So what they really want. I mean, out of the 20 features, what is that one feature for which they are really eager to pay for, right? So for us, like the key thing was key parameter on which we used to judge whether the customers would be, whether a feature out of 20, which one we should be building is the feature on which the customers are dead sure for paying, right? So as a B2B SaaS company, this was like the key parameter that we kept for ourselves, right? And basically worked well for us. This is really like one of the key theories that I have learned and found it like pretty useful. Uh, Data 4 theory by Kunal Shah. You can find it, just Google it, and then you'll find a lot of literature available. So what it says is, whenever you are building a product, if it brings at least delta 4 efficiency improvement from the current processes, then your product is almost irreplaceable, right? So you have found a pot of gold that will stick, that will not go away. So he basically has highlighted a lot of like signals which will tell you whether you are onto something or not, right? So few things are that were highlighted was the product experience that you have created. Is it irreversible enough, right? So I mean, the experience that you have given to the customers, how big a chance is there in which that customer will go back to their previous experience? If it is like dead sure that you have brought a foundational shift to the way that they were operating, then you have just unlocked one of the value, that okay, this product is completely irreversible and people will not go back from the experience that you have provided already to them, right? So in our case, kind of true, because the way it used to happen, the photography used to happen was it was all through deployment of people on the field, very high in cost, very high in operations complexity, and very high in execution timeline as well. So what we were able to unlock was we were able to give them an application that just works for that particular platform and then produces the same kind of output that they were earlier getting, right? So a lot of customers that we have deployed our application to, I mean, just keeps on like complaining about one feature broken or the other feature broken. But in the last 1 year or so, we haven't seen any single customer churning from the new experience that we have provided to them. Right. So this is second point where, I mean, once you have created that particular experience, the customer will just tolerate your product. Right. So they'll keep on cribbing about one feature or the other not working. I'm not saying you should launch with a lot of bugs in your product, but new feature demands and the bugs will not deter the customers to move away from your product, right? So basically, as a founder, so this is like one of the key things that I always think about. We're building a new set of feature, whether the new thing that we are building is following this particular theory or not, right? So this is like one of the key parameters on which we always evaluate any new feature that we launch, right? That the experience that we are building, will that brings a foundational shift to whatever they are building or not. And reiterating on that particular point, as an AI company, you have a lot of opportunities through which you can actually hit this particular theory true, Delta 4 theory, compared to the other set of companies which are just building app experiences, application experiences, because you are just automating a lot of things that are done by a lot of humans, right? With the people which takes decisions on its own. And third big and third pillar of this particular Delta 4 theory is that the customers basically themselves bring new customers, right? So the product is so cool, so good, so useful that they basically recommend your product. They like to recommend your product to the other people, and your product basically grows linearly, right? So in a lot of cases, so I mean, I have just tried to put in some of the examples, like in case of high tolerance, if you see, IRCTC website basically gave you an experience where you could book your train tickets online. Earlier you used to book your tickets by going to the railway station and booking it, right? So even if IRCTC website goes down for 2-3 hours, you'll not go back to the station and book your tickets. You'll again come back to it, right? So as a founder, possibly spend enough time to think about what is the next what is the core product that we should be building that will bring this particular Delta 4 theory. And in order to understand it, you'll have to understand the customers like inside out. I mean, what their motivations are, what is it that they are currently doing, what are the foundational flaws in that particular way of doing things, what new enhancements using the AI that you can bring in that can bring that particular Delta 4 advantage for that particular customer, right? So found this theory really helpful and thought ki should present it, right? And so we already talked about it. So uh, don't fear of pivots. So when you start an AI company, a lot of time uh, companies solving some problem that basically, I mean, in your journey you will possibly discover at some point of time that that product that you are building will not scale like too huge in future, right? So maybe finding the next best idea with the existing resources is one of the tough decisions that you need to take. And one thing is like big pivots, taking a big step away from the direction that from the product that you were already building, and the other is like small pivots, right? So uh, even if it is needed to take that big pivot to completely transform your journey, so that still is like worth if you are super confident, because that basically disrupts a lot of things for your employees, for your customers, for your investors, everyone. But 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 if you really see something by repeatedly like giving you 100% not working, I mean, not a good idea to get married with that idea forever, right? So this is something that has worked for us as well in the past, because uh, as a company, we always, and one of the things that investors also taught us was that you operate in a very big domain, and within that domain, if you keep on iterating and build like useful products, you will make it eventually, right? But the market has to be like large enough. So this is like one of the principles that a lot of like investors also taught us, uh, from like our discussion, from rejection, from a lot of things, that you need to operate in a extremely large market to get interest from those like big VCs, right? And the vision, market, all of these things clubbed, and then you'll have to solve for those customers, get those early sense of like proof, and then take journey from there on. So if you have not found out that those core things, I mean, this is like last things to do, one of the last things to do, but worth spending time on, right? So let me get back to the get to the slide, like the important part of uh, the presentation, which is fundraise. So I guess most of you have already raised 1 million and above, right? Checks. So possibly,
No.
possibly we all have seen this particular journey, how hard is raising the investment is. So I mean, the second, so the moment you hit the product market fit, this is the thing that you need to do. You need to now scale. So raising external money that can give you the scale is the most logical thing. And so so some of the things that have worked for us in the past were, so at various stages you encountered like various types of investors, right? So maybe at a very early stage, when we were looking at sub 1 million or just about a million kind of an investment. So about 3-4 years back, when the idea was also just in the in the initial stage, we didn't have any product, so not a lot of VCs were like supportive of something what we were building, right? So the thing that we did was we actually had this kind of projections created, where we figured out ki, okay, we will have three kinds of pitches with us. One is the bare minimum that will help us build that next hit that next milestone, maybe let's say about just a million kind of investment, how to go about that particular path, right? Then the second was, let's say you want to hit the mid-tier investors, or very early stage investors, VCs as well. So their comfort size is 1 to 2 million checks. So building stories for that kind of investor, and then bigger investor, like who can support in your vision and possibly write a bigger check even in the initial stage, right? So this was one of the things that I did initially. Of course, third didn't happen about 2.5 to 3 years back, but somewhere between 1 and 2 happened then, which basically led us to this particular path, right? So if you present your angel investors possibly a need of about like 2 to 3 million check, no, so that will not work well for them, right? So, and if you go to the large VCs with a check need of about like let's 1 million or so, they will, like most usual rejection that you'll get is you are too early, right? So possibly building pitches specific to the kind of VC persona or the investor persona that you are reaching out to is like a better way to approach the investors, because we all know how hard it is to raise the fund, and you get like maybe uh, 90% no's and 10% yes, but you need to get like one yes, and that's how this can possibly give you a chance to get that yes, uh, uh, slightly like in uh, better manner, right? So these all things I already talked about, right? A few things that VCs uh, early on look at is, are you really chasing a big problem, right? So how much of the shot do you have to create a really, let's say, 100 million worth of ARR company? Can you make that particular company, right? So most of the VCs that I have met usually apply this particular filter, that will this company grow into, like a few years back it was a unicorn kind of a thing. Now it is like maybe 4 to 5 billion dollar company. Is this company have Does this company have a fair shot of building a business which could be as big as this? right? So that entirely is dependent on what kind of problem are you chasing, right? So if the problem gives you scope enough to get into multiple directions and solve for, like, everything is connected, then you basically show that particular story, right? And big vision basically helps you there, right? So second part, of course, is the uh, I mean, your connectivity to that particular problem, right? So do they believe that you are the one who will be able to solve that particular problem, right? So why you, why not others? So this is the other question that most of the investors basically think of. And again, the third part is that customer fit, right? Product market fit, the evidence of early success. Do you have some paying customers which are sticking with you, which are paying you despite having some problems in the product, which are growing with you? Maybe last 3 to 4 months they have grown well with you. So these all are the signals that mostly the investors look at. And no matter who the investor is, everyone will be, maybe not the angels. Angels will not be concerned about, is the problem big enough, because they do not have those criteria. But definitely the VC that you'll be approaching, they will look at all three areas primarily. And yeah, when to raise money, right? So this is one of the key each, key things that will, I mean, you need to answer this particular question. Do you really need the money right now, right? And is it the right time to raise the money, right? So, and are you early? Are you late? Are you at the right spot? So these are all the questions that are really needed to be answered before you go for the real investment. Because the early you go, a lot of VCs will know you, right? And they will make maybe some judgment about you. It becomes harder, right? So so timing the investment with the right kind of product and right kind of customers backing is one of the keys that will help you, I mean, nail this entire investment process. And this is something that we also realized the hard way, right? But I guess, like, taking money when it is needed and when you have right data to show, right? So you need to balance it out. Like, building startup is pretty hard. So this is another hard thing that you need to do, right? So maybe revenue growth, you have seen like 3 to 4 months constant 15 to 20% or last 6 months, like, typically like rising revenues. That could give you a signal that, okay, this is the right time that you need to scale. Maybe it's some tech breakthrough, right? So you have built something that is new in the industry, and a lot of customers want it. They're still not paying for it, but something that is there, uh, the need is established, right? And you want to build a deeper product around it, right? In case of an AI company like ours, this is one of the key use cases that we key signal that tells us when to raise it, right? And if you have, like, money enough to sustain for the next, let's say, 9 to 12 months, possibly 6 months is the time period in which I mean, at a very early stage. Later stage, it becomes like 12 to 18 months. But in the initial stages, I used to always take a benchmark of the moment we have hit, let's say, 6 to 9 months of runway, we will go for the fundraise, right? So there's a kind of thing that I'll talk about, like, one of the very good slides that have have helped us in the past, that as a early stage. So I'm not too sure, a lot of companies will tell you that cash flow is not a problem that you should be worrying about in the initial stage, right? So, but I differ in this particular uh, area, in this particular, because you see, the cash flow always, basically, the founder will uh, this is one of the points that will always hover around your head, right? So how much of runway do you have? You cannot be dependent on your investors always to back you and basically pump more money to stay for longer period, right? So always the cost and the revenue, right? And what is the runway that it is giving you becomes like a fundamental decision maker in every activity that you are doing. So 12 months is one of the hard stops that I've already always kept. Okay, if I have the runway left with me for 12 months, I should take action. I should take action on what should be done, whether it is like cost cutting, or is it like investor outreaches, or is it like whatever has to happen has to happen. So manage, keeping a very strong eye on cash flow, the cost, the revenues, the growth, and your current cash state. These four factors will always make you as a startup founder very comfortable. Not like comfortable that okay, you have done, you have hit your milestones, but at least like comfortable in terms of day-to-day operations. You can sustain your business, right? So the second part that I mean, in the last 2 to 3 years, you have heard it like umpteen number of times, is at any given point of time, you, majority of you will have to evaluate, us will have to evaluate whether we are at default alive state or default dead state, right? So default alive state would mean ki, with the cash that you have, without external cash pumped in, will you be able to hit profitability, right? So majority of pre-revenue companies will not have this particular state still kicking in, but but if you do not have revenues here, then you'll have to be like some way in which you stretch your um, what do you say, the run rate, or stay a lifetime to at least like 12 to 18 months, right? So this is one of the key things that I always do in our company, right? So managing cost was the theme on which I was talking about. So always have a very strong hold on the finances, that how are we operating right now? Are we doing good on revenues? Are the growth intact? Do we have the cash which will help us hit hit a profitability state? If not, then what we need to do? Do we need to cut the cost? Do we need to, if we need to spend a lot in the R&D, then how do we get that money, right? So these all are the things that usually go behind the scenes in my day-to-day, not day-to-day, but at least like whenever I review my company's finances. I was talking about like cash flow, default alive, default dead concept, and don't overhire as a concept, right? So this is one of the other mistakes that we did. The moment we had this 7 million, we did like a lot of hiring that was unneeded, right? And now we are realizing ki, okay, we need to cut down on cost. So something that talking to one of the points that was earlier raised, that hire only when it is needed, right? So build efficiency early on, and one person should be doing one person's job effectively. So yeah, this is the entire theme. Some of the uh, topics that we touched upon was 0 to 1 journey,
Great. Thanks, Sanjay.
fundraising.
This was great.
Yeah, thank you.